here we have our first problem, square root of 54. And we wrote that into the square root of 9 times the square root of 6. The square root of 9 is 3. So 3 square roots of 6 is correct. So for number 2, we can multiply the 7 and 10 together. We get 70. We cannot simplify the square root of 70. There's no perfect square that goes in. So that is our final answer. So here we found 36, or number 3 is broken into 6 square roots of 5 divided by 5. Now let's go ahead and do number 4. 4 over the square root of 12. Now, this problem you can do a couple different ways. What I like to do first is to simplify the square root of 12. What perfect square goes in there? 4. Okay. 4 over the square root of 4 times 3. Raise your hand if you did it differently. Okay, that's all right. Don't erase what you have. That's okay. You started yours differently than I did. I don't want you thinking, oh, I did mine different. I must be wrong. From here, what can I do next? So you guys see that I can simplify real easily. The 4 and the 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, right? So I've got 2 square roots of 3. 2 over the square root of 3. Now I'll multiply top and bottom by the square root of 3. So I have 2 square roots of 3 divided by 3. Okay. Raise your hand if you multiply top and bottom by the square root of 12 instead. So let me do it that way. That way, in case you didn't get the same answer I did, you can see how yours will still work. So I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the square root of 12 over the square root of 12. So now I have 4 square roots of 12 over 12. What perfect square goes into that 12 again? 4. Notice it's the exact same as that, right? So I've got 4 times 3 over 12. Square root of 4 is 2, so I'll multiply it by the 4. 8 square roots of 3 over 12. And 8 and 12 both have what to go into it? 4. So I get 2 square roots of 3 divided by 3. Does it matter which way you want to do it? No. And in fact, some people simplify the 4 and the 12 here into 1 over 3, and then they bring out the 2, and so on. That also works. There's more than one way to do all of these. All right. So, we have x equals 2. We realized 2 times 2 is 4, but then we also realized something else. X could also equal negative 2. 2 separate answers, right? 2 separate answers. Now, how do I get rid of a square? Anybody know? What's the opposite of squaring something? Square rooting, right? So if I take the square root of both sides, anytime you put a square root sign there, you actually get 2 answers. Pretty cool. Can I show you one more way to do this problem? A way you've already seen before?
Can you write the plus and minus for the positive magnitude? Can you just write like x equals 2 and then do that times like...
Yes, that'd be fine with me. But I have some really messy writers, Sydney. I'm not even going to lie. That is what I've gotten on a few tests. I don't know that that's a plus and a minus. That looks to me like a not equal sign, like it's equal, not equal. Right? So if you want to do the plus and minus, I'm perfectly fine with that. If it's legible, we're good. Absolutely. Okay. Anybody know what those represent, by the way? What would they be? What? Cullen, say it. They're my x-intercepts. Cullen wasn't sure he was right, but he is. So let me show you one more way to do this problem. I recommend this way, and that's actually what we're going to focus on today. But this way is something you've already done. Anytime you see an x squared, what do you think you get it equal to? 0? So how many of you would think to subtract 4, right? X squared minus 4 equals 0. What can I do with that? X plus 2, x minus 2. And now you can see it should be a negative 2 and a positive 2, right? You see See how that works? Now, which way do I recommend? This way. It's quicker, it's faster. Okay? Plus, a lot of problems we're going to see today, this is the easier way to do it. But sometimes they're an easy factor and how you can do that. So let's go to a hard one. Are you ready? Here it is. Oh. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides here. And I get negative 5x squared equals negative 12. What would I do next? Not add it. Divide it, right? Because it's multiplying between here, and the opposite of multiplying is. Okay. So I get x squared equals 12 over 5. Okay, I'll hit repeat. How do I get rid of a square? Jake. Square root it, right? So I'm going to put a square root on both sides. That's the new item, by the way. That was it. Do you like that? Put a square root. Okay, now I taught you how to do that yesterday, right? How to simplify that? Square root of 12 over 5. What can't you ever have on the bottom? Square root side. Go ahead and fix that for me. Simplify the square root of 12 over the square root of 5. So I've got the square root of 12 over the square root of 5. I'm actually going to break up the 12 first. If you multiply by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5, you're still right. But I like to break up the 12 because at least then I have smaller numbers. What perfect square goes into 12? Good. Okay, that would be 2 square roots of 3 over the square root of 5, right? Now I'll multiply top and bottom by the square root of 5. 3 times 5 is? So 2 square roots of 15 over 5. Does that make sense? If you automatically multiplied by the square root of 5 over the square root of 5, you would have got the square root of 60 over the square root of, over 5. And then that breaks up into 4 and 15 over 5, or 2 square roots of 15 over 5. Both work, don't they? Both are perfectly fine to do. Now, here's the key thing. You took a square root, right? Was this square root sign in the original problem? So how many answers do I have to give? 2. So I'm going to write my 2 answers. X equals 2 square roots of 15 over 5, and x equals negative 2 square roots of 15 over 5. 2 answers. And again, Sydney asked, can I put the plus and minus? If you are a neat writer, absolutely. If you are one of the messy writers, I recommend writing them both. That way I can tell the difference. Make sense? Any questions so far? Here we go. So this time, instead of me trying to get the x squared by itself, this whole thing is being squared. That whole x minus 2. Well, the very first thing I need to tell you, never distribute a square. See, there's a minus sign there? You can't distribute it. Every year somebody goes, ooh, I will make that x squared plus 4. Or x squared minus 4. No. What does squared actually mean? What's it mean? It means to write it out twice, right? If I wrote it out twice, I'd have to FOIL it. Yeah, Sydney doesn't want to do that. I can tell by the look on her face. She doesn't want to FOIL. Anybody else not want to FOIL? All right, let's not FOIL. So I need to first move that 3 to the other side. How do we do it? Divide by 3. You cannot distribute because of this square. So we'll just divide both sides by 3. Now I have x minus 2 squared equals 7. How do I get rid of the square again? Jake? Square root it. Uh-oh. Who put the square roots on there? I did, right? So how many answers do I have to have? 2. What I like to think of though are those parentheses become straight lines. They become lines like this. And now I have 2 separate problems. X minus 2 equals negative square root of 7, and x minus 2 equals positive square root of 7. You what? You've done this before. Oh, you're tying this together. You actually did something very similar to this at the beginning of the year. Let me give you a similar problem. You don't have to write this down. X minus 2 equals 7. Remember those absolute value signs? Those absolute value signs, you made those into... That is it. You made that into x minus 2 equals negative 7, and x minus 2 equals positive 7, right? Well, the only difference now is we took the square root. Same exact thing. Pretty cool, right? Cullen was able to tie it back to something he's done. Now, how do I move this negative 2 over to the other side? Add it. Add 2 to the other side. All right. Can I add the square root of 7 and the 2 together? No. So I'm just going to write x equals 2 minus the square root of 7. I like to put that square root sign second. But if you want to put it first, I'm okay with that also. Negative square root of 7 plus 2 is fine with me. Okay, do the other half of it. I'll add 2. X equals 2 plus the square root of 7. There's my answer. I'm done. That's it. If you can simplify this square root, you have to simplify it. So if it had been the square root of 9, would you have to change it to? You'd have to change it to 3. Okay? Let's have you try one more.